There was somebody I once heard say that successful people don't share 1,000 different messages with one person, but rather they pick one very worthwhile message or idea and they share that with 1,000 different people. This idea really resonated with me as I evolved as an entrepreneur and real estate investor over the last decade or so. And in today's video, I want to persuade you or convince you through a few examples of how less action can actually lead to more income, more success, more contentment with your life. I'm Kirby Atwell from Living Off Rentals, and I've mentioned in the past that I am a huge fan of the two books Essentialism and Effortless. They're both written by the same author, Greg McKeown, and in his first book, Essentialism, the concept is all around this idea of doing less but better. So really identifying, taking time up front to identify the activities in your life, the actions that are going to make the absolute biggest impact and eliminating everything else. There's a quote in the book that says, "I cannot overemphasize the unimportance of almost everything." And I think there's a lot to be said about that. If you think about how many things we do on a daily basis that really are just not that important. Now, Greg wrote the second book, Effortless, because he started to eliminate all of the non-essential items and fill his life with the things that truly are essential. And he thought to himself, what if you get to a point where you have too many important, essential things in your life than you have time to handle? And what he realized is there's this preconceived notion that anything that's meaningful, that's essential, that's important, has to be hard, and it has to require a whole bunch of effort. And so he dissects this, and one important concept that really stood out to me in the book is this idea between linear results and residual results. So what he means by linear results is the results that most of us are used to. That's what most of the effort that we put in on a daily basis gets us these linear results. You put in effort and you get some sort of reward that you're after, and then you start back over. It's like working an hourly job or working for a salary. However, on the flip side, residual results, which a lot of real estate investors understand this concept more of, is when you put in effort up front and you're paid long term as a result of that initial effort. You don't have to continue the sustained amount of effort that you put in up front. There might be some effort going forward, but the big bulk of the effort's up front, and then you're paid long term. So that, you hear about this concept with book writers when they get residual checks long term, but it doesn't just happen in the book writing industry, it happens all over the place. And so once you start to become aware of, is your effort yielding you linear results or residual results, now all of a sudden your eyes are open and you can start to focus on more residual result type of activities. I bring this up and I want to share this with you because my first 5 years of investing in real estate full time, from 2011 to 2016, I was so focused on linear results. And I basically flipped properties for 5 years, and we did a lot of volume, and I put in a massive amount of effort and time at the sacrifice of a lot of other things. And I really ended up in the exact same spot, financially speaking, as where I started, because we made money on each property. We would find a property, we'd fix it up, we'd work to get it sold and work through all the challenges with that. And then once you sold it, you'd have to pay the taxes on it, and you'd have to pay all the overhead that you accumulated while you're fixing up that property and finding more properties. And you're on this giant hamster wheel. And it wasn't until 2016 when I switched to the rental strategy, and more so a year or two later when I switched to the short-term rental strategy, where I really started to see massive residual results. To me, one of the best ways to shift your mind to working toward residual results as opposed to linear results is to think in outcomes as opposed to actions. It amazes me how many times I talk to somebody and they're hustling, they're an entrepreneur, they're a real estate investor, and I ask them what it is that they're working toward. What is the outcome that they want? What do they want their life to look like as a result of all this hustle that they got going on? And 9 times out of 10, it seems like it's always like, well, I want more money, or I want more success, or want more status. There's some vague idea of what they're working toward, but the actions that they're taking, they're clear on the actions. They're taking action. Every day they're hustling. And to me, it's surprising, because that's almost like going out and taking action, driving your car toward a destination before you've even figured out what the destination is. So once you start thinking in terms of outcomes, what is it that I want my life to look like? What is the result of all this hustle that I'm planning to put in? Then you can get clear on the outcome and then backwards plan the best actions. And sometimes the actions that you're taking that you thought would lead to this vague idea of the outcome that you were after are the totally wrong actions to be taking. But you don't know that because you haven't clearly identified what the outcome is that you're after. The more I've shifted my own mindset into thinking about more of these high leverage, high residual results type of activities, the more I've noticed and the more I feel bad for entrepreneurs who are starting and signing up for businesses where it's very low margin and very high effort and time requirement on their part. And I think this is where that whole hustle culture comes from, because when you sign up or start a business like that, really what option do you have other than hustle? Because you can't work your way out of that type of business. You know, the only option you have is to put in more hours, put in a little bit, more effort, hustle harder so that you can make just a little bit more margin than you were making before. But obviously that's not sustainable, and you see this all over the place. You saw it, I saw it with flipping, that's one example, but even that has a little bit more higher margin than some of these others. Pretty much a lot, if not most, brick and mortar type businesses fall in this category. Restaurants are definitely a frequent offender of this. And so, not that there's anything wrong with these type of businesses, other than the fact that you are consciously, when you start a business like that you're never going to be able to escape from, that you're always going to have to feed because it's got such small margins, and you're never going to be able to extract yourself from that business and have that business pay you, as opposed to you really feeding that business constantly with your effort. Then really what you're doing is you're trading your future self, you're trading your future outcome for time in that business. So you're trading time with your future kids for time in that business. You're trading, trips you might go on, or travel, or taking care of your aging parents, or all these things that might come up in your future life that you might value higher than going into that office or working on that business. And you're consciously, by starting that business with very low margins and very low ability to create these residual type of results, you're making the conscious decision that you're going to have to trade off all those things that are important to your future self for time that you're going to be required to spend in this business. So the intent of this video is not to cast a gloomy shadow over your entrepreneurial dreams, but rather it's to wake you up and to make you aware of the decisions that you're making now and the impact that they will have on the future. Because even if you think you're not making a decision, you're making a decision. A no decision is a decision about the future. Greg McKeown actually talks a lot in his book Essentialism about how essentialists actually spend a lot more time up front weighing out all their options, building financial models, figuring out how much time each option is going to require, and then picking the absolute best option and putting all their effort into that one than the way non-essentialists do it. Non-essentialists typically spend a lot less time up front, and then they dabble in a lot of different directions. Maybe you can relate to this. Maybe, you've thought about getting into real estate investing and you've dabbled down the course of, I'm gonna flip, I'm gonna do wholesaling, I'm gonna do rentals, I'm gonna do short-term rentals, I'm gonna do single family homes, no, I'm gonna do multifamily homes, I'm gonna buy mobile home parks. And it can be exhausting. And you get an inch deep and a mile wide instead of going a mile deep and an inch wide. And that is where you make all the difference. I can totally relate to this. I've been down this road before, and largely because of the concepts that I've learned in books like Essentialism and Effortless, now in my business, there's really only two specific ways that I make money. And I go deep on these two ways, and they both go hand in hand. So it's really only one way. But number one, it's our short-term rental business. And my wife and I sat down when we were first getting started with our short-term rental business, and when we first discovered this strategy, and we realized it was so much better than the other strategies we were doing. It provided much more residual results, much higher leverage, much higher cash flow. And we got super intentional about this strategy. And that is what pays our bills now. That is what we live off of. Neither of us have to work. Neither of us have to hustle in the 9 to 5. There's still effort that goes into this business, but it's highly, highly residual effort. And the other way that we make money is teaching people exactly what we're doing in this side of the business, in the short-term rental business. So we walk people through step by step how to find, buy, and set up their first really high cash flowing vacation rental based on all the lessons that we've learned in our short-term rental business. So both sides of the business, we didn't just think through the strategy. Obviously, that was the first component. Pick the strategy that yields the biggest residual results. But then tactically within the strategy, then pick the method or the actions that are also going to yield within that strategy the most residual results within the strategy as well. So for example, on the coaching side of the business, people who aren't essentialists, they're going to, again, think in terms of actions instead of outcomes, right? So they're going to jump in and start taking the most logical, in their mind, action to take, which, you know, if you're going to start a coaching business, it's probably find clients to work with. And they're going to start working with people one-on-one, and they're going to work in a way that's very inefficient. So instead, right up front, what we did was got super specific about the outcome that we want our clients or program participants to get, and work everything backward from that outcome. And how do we make the process as efficient as possible to get that person to that outcome, and how do we do it in a way that takes up the least amount of effort and time on our behalf. So I spent lots of time up front interviewing people. I interviewed 52 different people who either want to get into short-term rentals or have been in short-term rentals, all around the things they wish they had known when they first got started, or the things that are holding them back from getting started. Then I created a plan that I thought would be the most efficient way to get somebody from no passive income, no vacation rentals, to their first high cash flowing vacation rental in the most efficient way possible. Then I tested that plan. I tested it live, and 26 different people went through the first iteration of that live, and I learned so much. I collected so much feedback that then I was able to take that and turn it into the best practice, the best, most efficient way that I possibly could to take somebody from not having any clue how to do a vacation rental to finding, buying, and setting up their first high cash flowing vacation rental in the most efficient way possible. So I've recorded that process to take people who are a good fit, who have that outcome of wanting to get their first high cash flowing vacation rental from where they are to where they want to be in the most efficient way possible. And I don't have to reteach the same thing over and over again and risk leaving things out or quality diminishing. This is the highest quality version of this process, and it's recorded for many people to go through. So I'm taking one very worthwhile idea, concept, or process, and I'm teaching it to 1,000 people instead of taking 1,000 ideas and teaching each of them to one person. What I also learned in this process is that people really do value having somebody walk by their side as they're going through this transformation. They want somebody, a coach, to be with them to answer their questions, somebody who might be just a few steps ahead of where they are and where they want to get to. And so again, the inefficient way to do this would be to provide one-on-one coaching with every single person who's going through this transformation. Instead, what I've decided to do is I set up a 2-hour block of time each week where everybody in the program can get together and ask their questions, get the coaching that they need. And people actually learn from each other in that setting, as well as get the personalized support to get them past the roadblock that they're working through. So these are the only two ways really that I make money in my business, other than the occasional loan that I'll do here and there, but that's really no time on my part. It's just my capital making money for me. And this didn't come as a result of taking a whole bunch of action and hustling hard, but the opposite. It came as a result of sitting down and thinking through what is the most highly leveraged actions that I can take and what is going to lead to the highest residual outcome type of activities that I can do, and then taking those actions and eliminating everything else. I used to do a lot more strategies. I used to pursue a lot more types of deals. Now people send me deals all the time. They send me multifamily deals. They send me deals that are outside my target location, and I don't even consider them because I'm so focused on my strategy that I know has worked well and it's provided a great lifestyle for my family. And I have a really good system around that that doesn't require a ton of time, doesn't require a ton of hustle and action, but a lot more thinking on my part. And really now I just have to tweak my system and continue to make my system a little bit better. And that system creates much better results on my behalf. I know this video topic is a bit more high level and strategic than the typical hands-on type hacks that I talk a lot more about on this channel, but I hope it resonated with you. And if it did, then hit the like button. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that if you are interested in the program that I just talked about, that where we teach people, we walk them through the process of finding, buying, and setting up their first high cash flowing vacation rental in the most efficient way possible. If you're interested in that, and you're truly interested in it, you can schedule a call with me directly, and we can chat about your goals and whether this program, the First Vacation Rental Investment Program, might be a good fit for you. You can go to livingoffrentals.com/call, and that gives you access right there to my calendar. And you can book a 45-minute strategy session with me, and we can talk through your goals and whether it's a good fit. So I hope to talk to you, but if not, I'll see you in the next video.